Hey guys, it's Spees, back with another video for Dragonflight. This time we're looking at Resto Druids and what has happened to them in Dragonflight. And basically the too long didn't read version is, well, they basically play the same, but you have a choice of a lot of the powers and special abilities like Covenant moves that you had choices. You had to either pick this one or that one. Well, a lot of those just got thrown into the talent tree, so you could mix and match stuff that you could not, that was just wasn't possible before, but now you can. So, first off, let's just see some changes. And one of the big changes is all Druid specs are getting Mark of the Wild back. And Mark of the Wild now just increases your versatility by 3%, which makes this actually one of the strongest raid buffs to put out. Just giving everyone 3% versatility is just a straight 3% DPS increase to everyone and take 1.5% less damage. So, Druids get basically the best raid buff. But let's take a look at the talent trees. Now, over here on the left, the Druid class talent tree was one of the first ones they showed, and they didn't really make any changes to how the flow of the tree goes. And it kind of still has that old mindset of where the original trees that they showed off were kind of very rigid, and they didn't change that for Druid, which is unfortunate. And I think it more has to do with the idea that Druids have four specializations, so they got to make sure that this Druid class tree has enough stuff for all four specializations, so it kind of just locks you into place. If you kind of look at the tree, if you start here, this is where Feral Druids would start. And if you just go straight down, this is all like stuff Feral Druids would want. This is where Guardian Druids would start. If you go straight on a line straight down here, it's all pretty much stuff that Guardian Druids would want. And the stuff in the middle is just talents that both Feral and Guardian would want. Kind of like utility that one or the other would want. And it's kind of the same over here on the right side. This is where Resto starts. If you go straight down, it's all talents Resto wants. Same with balance here, with some stuff in the middle that both would kind of like. And then if you go straight down to the capstone here on the right side, this is more kind of stuff for balance and Resto. Over here on the left side, this capstone is more for Feral and Guardian. So it makes the tree very rigid. And if you also look, there's not many crossover points. They've made a lot of the trees, like if you look at the right side, there's so many crossover points. You can start on the left side and then cross all the way over to the right and feel like you're not stuck to a path. But you are stuck to a path here at the regular Druid tree. So you kind of have to make the choice. You're going to take, and I should also mention, all the stuff in the middle is just utility that all four specs would want. So, as Resto, you want to just go straight down here, get all your Resto stuff, and then probably pick up these few things here on the right, either Mass Entanglement or Ursal Vortex, Innervate, Natural's Vigil, which is I don't know if it's a new spell for Druids or if it's an old spell that's returning, but this is a 1.5 second cooldown that says for 30 seconds, all single target healing also damages a nearby target for 20% of the healing done, which actually can be a pretty decent DPS cooldown. If there's moments of high damage you have to heal, you can click this. It's actually off the global cooldown, so you can macro it with some other big cooldown, healing cooldown, and then press it, and then as you're just throwing out all these fatty heals, you're also throwing some damage on whatever you're fighting. But back to what I was saying, you're probably going to take all this stuff, go down this little capstone, maybe pick up all the stuff in the middle, and then you just kind of have a choice. Do I want to spend the rest of my points in the balance stuff and just do some balance DPS if I have nothing to do to heal, or am I going to pick up all the feral stuff? That's basically it. I don't like this design of the tree, the rigidness. And one thing that makes me really sad is Well-Honed Instinct, which was a, what are they called? Not a soulbind, but a, conduit in Shadowlands that was awesome for every druid. It's a very awesome personal defensive that automatically activates when you fall below 40% health. You cast Frenzy Regeneration on yourself, and it can only go off once every 2 minutes. If you want this talent, you gotta go deep down into the feral side of the tree. And, you have to take this point, and this point, and this point, and this point, and some of these are probably multiple points along the way. So you gotta take all these points just to get this one, and you got to give up all kind of other points over here. I just wish there was a little crossover here. Why couldn't Tiger's Dash and Wild Charge branch off down here and then over here? So if you were committed to one side of the tree, you could still just kind of float over to the other side and pick up a few things without feeling like you had to go straight down the line above it. I mean, and another thing is, they still have a lot of 3-point talents, and they went through a lot of the other classes and cleaned up the 3-point talents. But it just felt bad to put just 3 talent points in to make my magical damage and healing increase by 6%. Why couldn't it just be 2 points and it be 3% for each point? They did that for a lot of other classes. We have another node here that says you gain 6% of a stat while in each form. And this talent is actually pretty good for Resto Druids. Just to have 6% extra haste when you're basically in healing form is actually awesome because, Druids want haste. But to spend 3 talent points when they removed all the other 3 talent points from most of the other class trees feels bad. I also want to point out, you could pick up an Interrupt as a Resto Druid, as Skull Bash, but it does require you to be in cat form or bear form and be in melee range. So, and once again, you would basically have to commit to being a feral DPSer when you're not healing. And you have to give up probably all the balance stuff over here. My one big gripe about the basic Druid class tree. If you go over to the right side and look at the Restoration tree, I think the Restoration tree is awesome. It has a lot of crossovers, so if you don't want to pick a certain talent but want to pick the talents under it, you can. Like you see, I just decided to skip Omen of Clarity, but that doesn't lock me out from the right side of the tree. I can still go down, come across underneath it. I decided to skip these talents here on the right, but that doesn't lock me out from getting the talents right underneath it. And as you can see, there's no 3-point talents on this side of the tree. They cleaned that all up. And this side, the Resto tree is pretty awesome. And this is where you're going to have some fun. Mixing and matching abilities was not possible before. If you notice, coming back as Covenant abilities are Convoke the Spirits and Adaptive Swarm. And you can have them both at the same time if you want. Now, sadly, Convoke the Spirits does share a node with Tree of Life. So you have to pick one or the other, which is actually a hard choice. Over here, we have both Verdant Infusion and Flourish as a choice, which Flourish is probably going to win most of the time, but I always did love Verdant Infusion to help out, smooth out healing and Mythic Blast, especially on the tank. You can throw all your hots on them, hit them with the Swiftman, it extended all the hots, and then you didn't have to worry about healing the tank for 8 seconds. And then once all the hots were about to fall off, you just hit them with another Swiftman, and extended them all again. And don't have to worry about if you don't tank again. Um, other talents here though that you have choices of: photosynthesis, while your life blooms on yourself. All your periodic heals 20% faster, and when you life bloom an ally, it basically has a chance to bloom every time a hot ticks on them. And you can also have undergrowth. You may have 2 life blooms at once. You can also pair that up with circle life death. Your damage over times deal their damage 25% less time, and your healing over times are 15% less time. These were all different either legendary abilities or covenant abilities that you could not mix and match together before. And now in Shadowlands you can. And there's even some more here that I didn't even I don't have in my current build. Germination, you can apply rejuvenation twice to the same target. Reforestation, every third cast of Swiftman grants you Tree of Life for 9 seconds, which is their 4-piece now that we have in Shadowlands. Down here, Power of the Archdruid. Wild Growth has 40% chance to cast your next Rejuve or Regrowth to apply to additional allies, which is a legendary ability in Shadowlands. Invigorate, I think this is a new spell. Refreshes the durations of your active light blooms or rejuvenation effects on the target and causes them to complete 200% faster. So these are just all abilities that you had to like pick and choose before. But now you could mix and match some combinations you could not have before. Do you want Convoke the Spirit, Adaptive Swarm, and photosynthesis and reforestation all at the same time? Couldn't do that in Shadowlands, but you can do that now in Dragonflight. So it opens up a whole lot of possibilities. And this is what I mean when I said they didn't really add much new stuff, but they're just giving you the choices of combinations that were just impossible before because it was either one or the other. Now you can pick both. So it actually makes the bottom of the tree very exciting of what you want to do. And you can, and I think this is the point of the new talent system. If you want to be real heal heavy and put a lot of points into Life Bloom, buffing Life Bloom, that's like the bottom left of the tree. Bottom right of the tree is more about raid healing, it looks like. So you can probably take stuff over here when you're in raids. Reforestation, Flourish, maybe Power of the Archdruid, Nurturing Dormancy. This is actually a talent they added in, and they have nerfed it many times. This says every time Rejuvenation heals a full health target, its duration is increased by 1 second, up to a total of 3 seconds. I think it used to increase it 3 seconds up to a total of 9 seconds. So in a raiding environment, you can just start rejuvening all the people when they're at full health before the big AoE came out. And then the big AoE came out, and they still had all these rejuvenations rolling on them. So then you just went into your AoE of like Wild Growth into Convoke or Tree of Life into Wild Growth. And this also comboed well with the Rejuvenation healing as a 1% or 2% if you put 2 talent points into it to create a new rejuvenation on a nearby target, which that rejuvenation, if it was on a full health target, would then start extending. That's basically the idea in raid healing. You want to throw out all the rejuvenations you can before the big AoE came, and then when it did hit, you hit Wild Growth, or you did hit Wild Growth into Trank, or Tree of Life into Wild Growth, or Wild Growth into Convoke. The possibilities, they're not endless, but there's just a lot more possibilities of choices of things to do that you couldn't do before. So Druids are very versatile. They still have basically all their utility. You know, you can still bring Mass Entanglement, Ursal Vortex, you still have Rebirth, you still have you can still bring stuff like Typhoon, Hibernate, which are not, very super I don't want to say not call them not useful, but very niche utility. But if you ever need to hibernate something, you always felt good to have it. You know, you still have Soothe. Um, you have Battle Res. You can get Stampeding Roar on a 1 minute cooldown. Now you're bringing one of the best party buffs, raid buffs in the game. So, Druids are looking pretty strong in Dragonflight. The only downsides they have is it could still be awkward to throw out DPS because you got to switch into your form, and if you're going to be in Feral, you got to run into melee, do your Feral Druid thing. Oh no, I got to heal. Then you got to switch out, same for balance. I still think they're going to get hit maybe again a little bit by the nerf bat. They've already been nerfed a couple times in the beta. They've brought down their healing. It still could happen again. And then on top of that, while in a raiding environment, their utility is, well, good. It's not great compared to, say, Holy Paladin, Disc Priest with their damage reduction. So Druids were never really brought to, like, world first, but they're still a really good raid healer. You can always still pump out the healing. You're still going to be a really solid Mythic Plus healer. Probably not the best. I still think that might go to Holy Priests. Maybe Holy Paladins. But Druids, and even in Shadowlands, Druids were always a solid number 3 on the Mythic Plus tier list. Shamans, Holy Priests, Holy Paladins were always probably, switched around for the top 3 in Mythic Plus, but Druid was always there, right on their nose. They might not have been S tier, but they were always a solid A tier healer. So I think that's where Druid's going to end up. They probably won't be the best healer, but they will be the solid A tier healer behind those S tier healers. I thank everyone for watching, and I'll see you next time.